Hey, what's going on, people? Welcome to Food Chest. I hope you're having a great day. So, if you know, you know, right? If you know, like Cameroon is like an interesting West African country, and I've been kind of keeping my eyes on Cameroon. The reason is because Cameroon, of course, is in the West African is a West African country. However, Cameroon has gone through years of civil war. Of course, it's a French colony, so there's a French Francophone anglophone side. There are two provinces within the anglophone section, trying to succeed and become independent of the majority francophone. Now, these two English sides are like 20% of the population. So they're like the minority, and we all know what minority is in on the continent, right? This they are not well represented in government. It's like that's the status quo. However, that's not the bone of contention in Cameroon. I mean, that's part of it because it has led to an unending civil war in Cameroon. About more than 6,000 people have been killed. A lot of IDPs, internally displaced people in Cameroon. So it's been a concern for years. It's not well covered. A lot of people don't really care about it. But I think it's interesting. Most interesting is the fact that Cameroon has been governed, I think ruled is the right word, by one person for over 4 decades. Current President Paul Biya is 92 years old. Cameroon is having elections later on this year. So we're trying to see if Cameroon is going to be able to bring someone in power that is going to be representation of the whole country and not someone that France is going to put in power, which is what I think is going on. Now, Cameroon is a French colony, of course. So that's the issue here. And again, I've done a video about this to give you much background about what's going on, and I'm going to link it to the description so you can watch it anytime you feel like it. But for today, right, so the main thing is that this week the opposition, who is trying to vie for presidency in the upcoming elections in Cameroon, is a name by the name of Maurice Kamto. Now, Maurice Kamto is not new in the Cameroonian political sphere. I think back in 2018 he did try to run for election, but he was detained, and all that stuff happened to him, and no one knows. But he's back on the scene. But there's a little, and this was reported by the BBC. However, there's some weird stuff in this article, and I'm laughing because this article is written by two people. One person's name is like, I'm sure they get like a whole bunch of like weird jokes. It's written by Paul Biya and someone by the name of Natasha Booty. So, but that's let me not sidetrack too much. However, so Maurice Kamto had a rally in France. That was the first thing that was like, why is he having a rally in France, right? So that raised my eyebrow to the situation. And then he came to Cameroon, and where he was staying, the police had to have a stakeout, I guess, to protect him. Why? That's another question I had when I was reading this article. And then Maurice Kamto is 71 years old. Now, there's no ageism here, but I just can't help to foresee a better Cameroon if he's actually going to be the front runner and the main person. Because I just think the status quo is going to continue. This guy is 71. How long? He's going to rule to his 104? I think Cameroon can do better. I think there are other much younger, viable candidates that should step up and try and change what's happening in Cameroon. So there's another weird thing about this Maurice Kamto guy. And then he now mentioned in the article that he's going to protect Paul Biya if he does become president. What does that even mean? So, and that caused the whole upheaval with his party and the current party, and they're like why are you saying that? What do you mean he needs protection? This, and the third, right? So, and to me, I was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Why would you say that you're going to protect, the current president? Like, what are you protecting him from exactly? I didn't understand that statement. So, and again, before the main elections, right, Cameroon normally has parliamentary elections. The parliamentary elections were meant to be held this year. However, they've been postponed to later on in 2026. Again, Cameroon is meant to have a presidential election later on this year. We're still trying to see what's gonna happen, how that's gonna play out. But here's my thing. Here's my full chest take on this, right? And again, if you're Cameroonian, you're watching my channel, please chime in, correct me if I'm wrong. We're all learning, right? So when is Cameroon? When is, like, a lot of African countries? Burkina Faso is growing up. When are other African countries gonna actually grow up? Like, you were born, or you got independence in 1960 and so forth. But most of these countries, they don't want to grow up. Like, how does it benefit your country when there's ongoing civil unrest, when you're governed by one person for 40 plus years? How does that even make the populace? How do you guys feel? Like, how, as a country, what is your reputation? You know, how do you come out? And this is why most, developed countries, like, look at African countries as like second or fourth class citizens in the global stage. Is because, dude, how do you guys function in chaos, in like lack of civility, and you cannot find a way to make things amicable without having external influence come in by the West? So when is Cameroon gonna grow up? When are people gonna step up? Whether are the institutions, the judicial sect, or whatever it is, you know what? Let's come together. Let the right candidate win. Let the people actually choose who wants to go. If you guys are gonna operate a democracy, which, as you all know, I don't think is the right form of government for every African country. But if you're going to say you're a democratic state, why don't you practice the principles of democracy? When? Right? All this stuff sounds crazy to me. Like, there's this whole upheaval. I mean, the guy is being protected by police in Cameroon. Like, for what? Why is he not allowed to come to the country where he wants to vie for election, do a rally? Why is he doing a rally in Cameroon? And then that's part of it. And then Cameroon, do you guys really want someone who is 71 to take over from a 94-year-old? That's another question I have. So it's kind of interesting. So, let's see what's going to happen in Cameroon. And till the elections, I'm still going to be watching. I'm still going to be following this closely, bringing it live to you guys. But again, people on ground in Cameroon, let me know what you guys think. Let me know exactly what's the issue with Maurice Kamto. Is he really going to run, or is this just like one of those things to show that, oh, there is an opposition, and then it's just like, well, Paul Biya is still gonna be the president for another 10 or 4, how many more years that he wants, and are the constitutions gonna still continue to be changing according to whatever the sitting president wants, or are they gonna actually follow the law of the land? But yeah, guys, let me know what you think. And always, man, this is Full Chest.